The Honourable Member for Cardigan.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. The UN has indicated that in order for women to be considered a critical mass capable of having an impact on policy and practice in government, they must gain a minimum of 30% representation in legislative bodies. Our Canadian Parliament has still not reached this critical mass index, and our current electoral system is hindering women's progress in our pursuit to achieve equal representation. Electoral reform is a clear and tangible way that we can make steps towards a Canada in which all voices are equally represented. Extensive research has shown that certain electoral models more effectively promote the election of more women in political office. Party-list proportional representation systems in particular incentivize parties to run more diverse lists of candidates and therefore are the most successful at getting women's names on the ballot. I believe wholeheartedly in the importance of reforming our electoral system to create the most fair, democratic, and engaging system possible. The fight for electoral reform is not over.
Now I know we have a few minutes for questions, and I very much look forward to taking them. Speaker, do you want to pick the people who asked the question? There we go. So I'll let you you point out.
Chelsea Montgomery, Wellington, Halton Hills. My question for you is, going forward, you made a promise of electoral reform, and we know that the different... And your government has given the reasons of how a referendum can be divisive, how there are multiple challenges, but those challenges, if they were met, would be better and ensure that more women would make it here. Instead of waiting to 2090, and that is the year that it would take if we keep on the path that we are going right now to see gender parity in this House. So what commitments are you making, and what is the plan to go forward?
Excellent. Well, that's a great question and a really important one. It has a number of different elements in it. First of all, how are we going to get more women to run for Parliament? That's a fundamental one that we all recognize. Now, before I could create a gender-balanced cabinet, before it could be 2015, it had to be 2014, 2013, 2012, because in those years, I went out and tried to convince amazing women to run for politics. At a time where politics was divisive and negative, and there was a lot of nasty feelings about politics, I had to convince people to step up and run forward. And it's always a challenge to get women to run for politics, because when you ask a man if he wants to run for politics, his first question is, when would I start? When you ask a woman if she wants to run for politics, all too often it's, really, do you really think I'd be good at it? Do you really think I should? There's an uncertainty there, and we need to be better at convincing women to run, convincing people to step forward. And that's something that I take very, very seriously and that we're continuing to work on. Right now we're facing 5 by-elections on April 3rd to replace 5 seats that have been vacated by men in this House. And I'm very proud that the Liberal Party is presenting 4 out of 5 women candidates in those by-elections. So that's an issue that we can work on in many different ways, and we need to, because we need to make sure that we get many more women in this House. The issue of electoral reform is one that is linked and that is, but is also separate. We need to improve our democracy. We need to improve a lot of things about it. We need to improve the way this House functions so that women who want to have kids and want to be in Parliament don't have to make impossible choices differences between the two, that we create a better work-life balance, that we respect the kind of contributions that everyone can make and the challenges they're facing. There are changes we need to make there. There are changes we need to make around how politics functions on a broad level. And, as we said, we do need to improve our voting system, and that's why we're making significant changes that are going to improve by reversing some elements of the Unfair Election Act, make sure that people have access to vote. We did talk about changing the electoral system, and it was a commitment that I was very much hoping to be able to do. Fundamentally, my responsibility as a Prime Minister is to do the right things for Canada in the best interests of the country moving forward. And I know there are people who are very passionate about electoral reform, and I'm actually one of them. But at the same time, what was clear to me was that we were on a path that was not going to lead Canada to a good place, that was not going to serve the interests of the country or the citizens that we need to represent. And I had to make a very difficult call to put aside the commitment to change our voting, our type of voting, and move forward in other ways to do that. And I know there are people who disagree with that, and that's what we have elections for. You will be able to be critical of me now, ongoing, and at the ballot box if that's the issue that matters most to you, and I know a number of you will. But I will always make decisions in terms of what is in the best interest of the country, and that's exactly what I did in that situation.